Hello, my name is Michael O'Connor, and I am going to discuss today the 12th century Renaissance along with Abelard and Eloise, who were living during the time period and were emblematic of the age, and each demonstrated and represented values of the 12th century Renaissance. The 12th century Renaissance can be explained as Europe was finally under a time of stability where most of the Viking raids that had torn up Europe had ceased, and borders for the lands were set, and Europe became stable economically and religiously. Um, it began with a little help from the environment as the world was going through a little bit of the climate change where many of the seasons were warmer than usual, producing higher yields for crops than had been seen for many years beforehand. This increase in food supply and the invention of the heavy plow allowed farmers to harvest more food for their growing population. With more food, as I said, the population increases, and so does the stability, because with more people, you have a better stable community. With increased population sizes and stability, trading became a huge factor in urbanization, and many trade routes where people would meet up eventually became cities and towns. With these increase in trade and movement in trade routes, lords and guilds were set up along the trade routes to help collect taxes for protection. These guilds inspired rules and regulations for specific groups of people, and to make sure all goods were sold up to par, a learning system was put in place where masters would teach their skills to students till one day the student will be able to use those skills and for their own work and use those skills to help their work better on. This is where Abelard comes into play, being the most sought after teacher in Europe at one point during the Middle Ages, and students would line up by the thousands to be taught by him, and as a result, students would have to pay for his knowledge. Also, during this time of peace, there was a revival of classical Greek and Latin text to help deal with and explain current problems in the 12th century. As a result, a guild created for the church judicial system, focusing on philosophy and the laws of the world according to Greek and Latin philosophers, in which future lawyers of the church learned to read and understand the land and develop their skills. This wave of studying Greek and Latin philosophy is what initially led to Abelard and Eloise's great romance that eventually led in demise. Abelard was the son of noble parents who renounced his inheritance for the pursuit of knowledge, and as a result, a few years down the line, he began tutoring his niece Eloise, and another couple years passed, and eventually they become lovers. Eventually, Eloise's uncle finds out about their relationship and is unhappy with it, and as a result, Abelard is castrated in an attempt to end the relationship. Uh, this castration became a major turning point in history because it demonstrated the shift of thinking from the smartest man in the Middle Ages, from studying philosophy and theology, to using religious thinking and using religious scriptures and studying religious scriptures and looking to find the answers to many questions people were still searching for in religion. Abelard, being the smartest person during his time period, uh, it demonstrated how his powerful knowledge uh, could help impact history, and it demonstrates how much knowledge can affect history and can lead to a powerful impact in history, and being the smartest person can lead to a larger reach, because obviously during that time period, teachers were sought after, and Abelard being the smartest, he was sought after constantly. So his values and his beliefs are in a lot of the writings that we read today from the Middle Ages, and you can see his teachings in most of them. Abelard began using his knowledge to tackle the questions of Christianity by learning all he could about the religion and questioning logically all we know about Christianity and God, which eventually led to him getting in trouble down the line and being excommunicated from the church. So this major turning point in European thinking, as Abelard inspired, this was a major turning point in European thinking because Abelard inspired many thinkers after him to focus on religious questions of life rather than using philosophy and theology. Now, when discussing Eloise, the other important figure in this relationship, she is significant because for much of her relationship with Abelard, the smartest man in the Middle Ages, she was seen as an equal by him and by his peers. This differs from what many people believe life was like for women during the Middle Ages. Eloise was highly educated and seen as an intellectual by Abelard, who found beauty in her mind over her appearance, and as I said before, most individuals around him as well viewed Abelard as a smart person, and therefore Eloise was just as smart. This is symbolic because it represents women's self-wit and equality during the Middle Ages and eventually the past, because during the past, the consensus is that women in the past had little to no rights and were seen as lesser. She demonstrates the possibility of women's impact and significance on history. Thank you.